What's up, guys? Thanks for checking out another one of our videos. Once again, we are in the engine bay of our Focus ST, and we are talking about troubleshooting for your Focus ST. For instance, our Focus ST doesn't run. So to troubleshoot that, I would first ask, why doesn't it run? Does the car have a motor? No, it does not have a motor. That is why this car doesn't run. What's up, guys? I'm Alan with Edge Autosport. Please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you like the content we provide. Also be sure and like this video and check out our website, edgeautosport.com. If you need parts, tuning, whatever you need for your Focus ST, we've got it at edgeautosport.com. Dangerous, danger, danger. Ah! Ah! Attack! Attack! So as a tuner, I come across a lot of interesting little issues with the Focus ST. When I've got one on the dyno, it's a lot easier for me to put my hands in the car, put my eyes on the car, and troubleshoot a little bit better what the problem may be. But when I get an email that just says, my car's not building boost, what's the issue? Honestly, there are a lot of issues. And since I can't put my hands on the car or look at the car, I can give you a list of problems, but I can't tell you what the exact problem is. At that point, it is really just an educated guess based off of what I can see in the data logs. A lot of times there are a lot of back and forth emails of me explaining this. So in order to help you, I wanted to make this video so that you guys have a better understanding of how to go about troubleshooting issues yourself when I'm 1,000 miles away over email and I can't troubleshoot for you. I want to start with spark issues. On the Focus ST with the stock turbo or big turbo, the first thing you're going to hear is to upgrade your spark plugs, run one-step Kohler plugs, run two-step Kohler plugs, and people are talking about gaps and things like that. This is important because it does matter. If you are tuning the car and you have a stock intercooler, you should probably be on a two-step Kohler plug. And if you have an upgraded intercooler and your charge air temps are in control, then you should be running a one-step Kohler plug. If you have a bigger turbo on the stock fuel system, you're probably fine on the one-step Kohler plug. Once you start running more boost, you're pushing that power higher than what the stock fuel system can attain, you should probably start looking at maybe a two-step Kohler plug at that point. And for gaps on the spark plugs, which let me show you that. I happen to have a spark plug here, and this, which you can't see, so let me draw it, is the spark plug gap. That is the spark plug gap. And basically, if that is too big, you will run into what's called spark blowout, and you'll get that breakup feeling. And it just feels like a hesitation. I can't really describe it any other way than it's breakup. The combustion is not clean, it's not smooth. When you get that, the most common reason for that is your spark plug gap or the spark plug being fouled. So if you're feeling that, pull out your plugs, take a look at them, check the gap. Put new plugs in if you need to. NGKs or one-step Kohler Iridium plugs, they probably need to be changed every 10 to 15,000 miles anyways. So if you're running close to that mileage on those plugs, good time to go ahead and swap them out. So with spark issues, if it's not the spark plug, then the next thing would be coil packs. A lot of guys that I tune are running the upgraded coil packs on their Focus STs, and from what I've seen, they aren't really all that much of an upgrade, and in some cases can be worse in terms of reliability than stock. So I recommend just keep the stock coil packs on your Focus ST. I haven't really seen any benefits from running the upgraded coil pack options on the market. I have seen issues with them on a handful of cars, and I don't think it's worth the money or the hassle that it could potentially cause. I'll organize this a little better for you guys. We got spark, so plugs, which I already talked about, coil packs. Keep your stock coil packs. And coil packs have a very low failure rate on these cars. One of the failures that I have seen has been more of a harness issue, where the coil pack harness will develop some kind of a short and you'll get misfires. Usually it'll be located on one specific cylinder, and moving plugs and coil packs and injectors around doesn't change it. And it's because the problem is actually in the wiring going to the coil pack. So that's another issue that I've seen when you're developing misfires. And in that case, you will get check engine lights. With spark breakup or blowout, you won't get a check engine light, it'll just run like crap. Sorry to interrupt this video, but I realized after the fact that I did not mention something that I intended to, and that is if you are getting misfires that are check engine lights, especially if they are specific to a cylinder, you should do a compression test and check the health of the engine. Now back to your regularly scheduled programming. So with coil packs, they don't typically fail, but upgrading them tends to invite other issues. The other potential cause for spark blowout or this unclean combustion is injectors. Although it's a very small failure rate, there is a possibility of an injector failure that could contribute to this. And typically what you'll see is if you're looking at your spark plugs, you'll see that one or more of them is running way leaner than the others. And you can identify this by how white the injectors are. Now there's a difference between white and tan, because with DI cars you do have a leaner mixture anyways, and so spark plugs will run a little bit more on the lighter tan side. I don't expect you guys to be able to pull out your spark plugs and tell exactly what they are doing, but that is something that you can send me a picture of. Now with coil packs and injectors, if you're having a problem with one of those, you are probably getting a check engine light. It's going to most likely be a random cylinder misfire or a specific cylinder misfire. And if you are getting one of those, misfires are almost never a tuning problem. They are most likely a mechanical issue, and it is going to be one of these things: spark plugs, coil packs, or injectors. Speaking of problems that your tuner can't help you with over the phone or over email, I have had someone call me and ask me where their car was leaking oil from. They were in a different state and they wanted me to tell them where their oil leak was. And that is not something that your e-tuner can help you with. Before I talk about issues with boost curves, I want to talk about what is actually a normal boost curve. So normal boost curve on the Focus ST is going to vary from car to car. For example, here is a normal boost curve for a stock turbo and what I would consider to be a very strong stock turbo. As you can see, boost holds pretty flat through the mid-range and then tapers off towards redline. It's completely normal for this to happen because the stock turbo cannot push that much boost on the top end. It is out of steam and it's already being pushed super hard. It just can't keep up at the higher RPMs. So if you're seeing your boost pressure fall off, that's not a problem, it is normal. Now, in this example, this is what I would consider to be a weak stock turbo. I see them from time to time, it's not super uncommon. Turbo's just not able to keep up and you end up with your boost hitting early on and it just falls off super hard as it goes to redline. You don't have as much mid-range, and unfortunately, that is also normal for the Focus ST. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong. It's just unfortunate when your turbo isn't as strong as someone else's turbo might be. Both of these are normal, and that doesn't necessarily mean you have an issue if your boost is falling off. I have had guys that have spent hours troubleshooting to find out why their boost pressure is dropping, thinking they have boost leaks or problems, and they finally send me a data log and it's like, oh, actually that's normal, and you've wasted days trying to fix this problem that doesn't exist. So I don't want you guys to think that. And along those lines, if you do think you have a problem, feel free to send me a data log. Just because I can't be there doesn't mean I can't give you my thoughts on what might be going on. And in some cases, there may not be any problems at all. Next up with boost would be something that I get. I see this on Facebook more often than I actually get it via email, but it's my car suddenly stopped boosting. Sudden onset no boost or low boost on the Focus ST. I don't actually see that very often from emails from eTunes that I'm doing, but I do see that on Facebook a lot. It's like, oh, my car is not making boost anymore. I'm only hitting 5 PSI. And on the off-the-shelf maps, and in most cases on my maps, I'll leave them on there, but there is a eco mode map. And what people are doing is they're accidentally switching into the eco map, and on the eco map it's targeting very low boost to help with maximized gas mileage and all that, and so all of a sudden your boost is gone. This again is not a problem, but it's something you should be aware of, is that if you accidentally hit the cruise control cancel button and then the set plus button or whatever while you're driving, or if you're fiddling with stuff and you accidentally put it in map slot 2 on the Cobb OTS map or even a map that I've done for you, you're going to lose all your boost pressure, or at least it'll only run about 5 psi. If that happens, check and see what map slot you're running. You can check that on the access port it's one of the gauges on the access port, so you can see that for yourself what map slot you're in. And if you're in slot 2, you're probably in an eco mode, and that's why your boost is gone. Now, the other reason boost goes away suddenly is because you've blown a charge pipe. You have your turbo, which looks something like that. We can use our imaginations. And from the turbo, you have a charge pipe system that goes to your throttle body. We'll just draw this around the corner here, and then you have your throttle body and your intake manifold. You see my runners there? I failed art class. There's a lot more piping, obviously, from your turbo to your charge pipe, but the point I'm making is that here is the compressor outlet, and from that point to the head are all places where boost can escape. So if you lose boost, you have no more boost, or you're running really low boost, or something's changed, there is a very good possibility that you have a boost leak. And there are plenty of coupler sections along the way where boost can escape, where a pipe can blow out of a coupler, pipe can blow off your throttle body, gaskets can blow off in the intake manifold, and now you're losing boost pressure. If all of a sudden you don't have boost, that is definitely not going to be tune related, because the tune can never change. If you're making 22 pounds of boost and then you're not making any boost, the tune didn't change, the tune didn't break, something on the car broke. If you email me and you tell me you don't have boost pressure, I'm going to tell you to do a boost leak check, or check over your couplers and your clamps and make sure everything's on there. The best way to do it is a smoke test or a pressure test, because it's going to show you where the leak is. But in some cases, especially if you have no boost, you can usually easily find the problem just by looking, because you'll see one of your couplers will just be off and a pipe will be sticking out somewhere. And this will happen between the compressor outlet and the head. So trace your charge pipes and see what you can see. You can find the leak. Finding a boost leak is definitely not something that me as your tuner can help you with, or any tuner can help you with. Through email, I can tell you, oh, well, it looks like you might have a boost leak. I can't tell you where it's at. I can't see that. So you have to look for yourself. And this is where you're going to find it, between the compressor outlet on the turbo and the intake side of the head. Now, the opposite problem from a boost leak is overboost. With overboost on the Focus ST, I see this more commonly on base maps where someone has changed their turbo or upgraded their wastegate. And what usually has happened is they've either forgotten to connect one of the lines for the boost controller, or a line has popped off of the wastegate. Real quickly, I want to explain how the wastegate works. Internal or external, doesn't matter. You have a wastegate spring inside the little canister, and that is forcing the wastegate to stay closed. Usually on the ST, stock turbo is probably about 5 to 7 psi. When you upgrade, you're going to run about 7 psi to 12 psi, like with the TurboSmart wastegate actuator. And if you're running a bigger turbo, it's going to be anywhere from 10 to 14 psi. And if you're doing external wastegate, you can set it up however you want. But anyways, the wastegate spring is holding the wastegate closed and allowing you to build boost. When you connect a line from the charge pipe right here, boost side, to your wastegate, you are allowing boost pressure to act on that spring. So if the spring is 10 psi, when you hit 10 psi of boost here, it's going to overcome the spring pressure, and the wastegate's going to open, and you're not going to continue to build boost. And that's why wastegate spring pressure is your minimum amount of boost that you can run. Now, when you introduce a boost controller into the system, here's my boost controller. I don't know if you can see that very well, but you want to connect the pressure side to the plug side on your Focus ST. Then this port that is going perpendicular to the other two, that's actually going to go around to the wastegate. And then this one is just going to vent or connect back to your intake. Now, there are other hoses that go in there when you have, like, if you're running just an upgraded actuator versus big turbo. I'm not going to get into that. But what the boost controller does is it's going to vent boost away. So you're sending pressure out this vent into the intake, and you're diverting it from the wastegate. If you're upping the wastegate duty cycle, you're telling this to open and close, and it's going to vent some of the pressure away from the wastegate. So if you're running a 10 PSI spring and you're venting 5 PSI away, now you're able to hit 15 pounds of boost. If you're venting 10 pounds away, you're hitting 20 pounds of boost. So that's how you control boost on the ST. But if you lose this reference right here to the boost source and this no longer sees boost pressure, boom, overboost. Nothing's going to be opening the wastegate. Nothing's acting on the wastegate to overcome the spring pressure. It's going to stay closed until the back pressure forces it open, and that's when you see boost run away. So this is a common issue with overboost, is the wastegate has lost its boost reference, and you aren't able to control boost anymore, and the turbo just makes all the boost that it possibly can. If you're running a base map from your tuner and this is happening, you need to check your wastegate lines. You need to make sure that the wastegate is unobstructed. You need to make sure that everything is properly set up. Like for me personally, I send out 0% duty cycle maps for base maps because I want to make sure that you have everything hooked up before I start trying to introduce more boost into the system. That's not going to prevent an overboost though. It doesn't matter if I was commanding boost or not. If this is hooked up wrong or you've lost your boost reference, nothing's going to stop the turbo from running as much boost as it can. Now, there are protections in the tune that are going to help minimize the damage, but even those can only do so much with a runaway turbo. So the opposite is underboost, and if you hook these up wrong, you're going to get one of the two, either massive underboost or massive overboost. Typically with the underboost issue is usually when you still have the controller on the top of the valve cover still in play, and you've got that T in there and it's going up to the valve cover, and that, when you're running bigger turbo setups, is going to interfere. So in that case, you're going to want to probably just get rid of that little controller and hook it up like this, where you don't have any extra interference to the boost controller. So the last thing that I want to talk about with boost pressure, and this is also going to be more geared towards those of you that have bigger turbos, have upgraded your turbos and have changed everything back there, is you're going to see slower spool than what you would typically want to see on the turbo. So slow spool, underperform. What happens is when you're installing a bigger turbo, don't get a gasket on right, or the firing gets nicked, or something along those lines, the gasket blows out, something's not tight, you get a leak. There's not a whole lot of points of failure here, but there are definite spots where you have issues. So on the turbo, on the head, we'll call this the head fold here, you have your elbow that goes out and down to the turbine housing. That's an excellent turbine housing there. You have a gasket here, and you have a V-band clamp here on like the ATP turbos, or you'll have a gasket there on like a B&R turbo. But either way, if you have a leak here or here in the exhaust side, you are going to have slow response because you're losing exhaust energy right there. If either one of those spots is leaking, exhaust energy is going out there, it's not going through the turbine, and it's not spinning up your turbo. So if you have a turbo like a GTX 2867 or B&R 67 or even a B&R 3071, and it's not spooling as fast as it should, usually I'm going to tell you, hey, the turbo doesn't seem to be performing like it should. It's spooling very slow, and you may have an exhaust leak. This is what I'm talking about right here. This is where the leak's going to be, between the turbine housing and the head. And that's a very small area to check. You'll see black, sooty stuff all in there. If you do have a leak, if you pull it apart, you'll see your gasket is probably burned where the exhaust is exiting through. And if you're losing this energy, it's not going through the turbo, it's not going to spin up your turbo. I've seen this a lot on the ATP kits because this V-band is pretty difficult to get seated. It's kind of hard to put the elbow on the head for the ATP kits with the turbo attached and then access everything. So I see a lot of people that will take the turbo off the V-band clamp right there, they'll bolt the elbow on, and then they'll install the V-band clamp, but it's always over their heads and they can't get it seated just right, and so this won't be seated properly and you'll have exhaust gas blowing out right there. Very common on the ATP turbo kits. On the B&R turbo kits, there's a gasket right here because of the type of flange that they use, and if you don't get that seated properly, if that gasket gets damaged, then you're gonna blow out right there, and that's gonna cause slow spool. Likewise, on the ATP kits, they use a fire ring and not an exhaust gasket here on the head. I've seen people put the factory exhaust gasket on and then stack the fire ring on top of it. The exhaust gasket is smaller than the opening here for the turbo elbow, and that exhaust gas just burns it and then blows it out, and you end up with this lethargic spool from your turbo because you're losing all your exhaust energy. That is another area where if I'm going to tell you that you have slow spool, it could be from an exhaust leak. The final thing that I want to touch on that would cause like poor performance for like slow spool or underperformance from the turbo would be like your catalytic converter. If you're running stock catalytic converter or upgraded catalytic converter, there's always a possibility that over time your cat breaks up, clogs somehow, and what this is going to do is create an enormous amount of back pressure. Turbo's not going to be able to spool, it's not going to be able to build boost, and you might see like one of these three things. It could be a clogged cat. It could also be a dead squirrel in your exhaust. We have had a customer who has found a dead squirrel in their exhaust before after complaining about issues with their car not performing like it's supposed to be. We've had guys pull their downpipe off and have the cat turned sideways in there. Guys that have just left a rag in the charge pipe, and that's caused this issue where the turbo can't spool up, it can't build boost, it's just got too much restriction. And so that's something to check, is if you're slow spool or underperforming, you want to check for restrictions or exhaust leaks before the turbine housing. If it's after the turbine housing, it's just going to make a raspy sound. It's not going to really affect performance. But if it's before the turbine housing, that's where it's going to affect performance. I will come to this last one that I just thought of, the bypass valve. I have not come across this as being an issue on very many setups. Usually when you're doing an upgraded turbo, like the ATP kit or the B&R, you're running a charge pipe that is got a blow-off valve built into it. You're not using any of the factory boost control, bypass valve control stuff anymore, and you're not going to have as many issues with those kinds of blow-off valves. If you're running a stock style blow-off valve on your Focus ST, like with a hybrid turbo or the new BWS turbo, big wheel stalker for those of you who are not in the know, I have seen with the stock bypass valve an issue where it's opening and closing under boost, and you get this boost curve where it comes up and then you get this little wonky oscillation, and that is from the bypass valve just oscillating. And it's not something that's going to show up on a smoke test. It's not something that'll show up on a leak test. It's something that I've only seen it once, and that's why I'm telling you about it, because it is a possibility. But if you see this in your boost curve, or if I see this in your boost curve, I'm going to tell you to replace your bypass valve. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. I hope this has been helpful. I know it kind of touched on a lot of different points here, and I really just want to kind of give you guys an idea of the different potential points of failure that you're going to run into when modifying these cars, and to help you troubleshoot yourself, because as an e-tuner, I can't always give you exacts on what might be wrong. I'm going to tell you the area to look, and then I hope that this video will help you understand what I mean when I'm telling you what to look for, because I really want to be able to help you out as best I can. But in a lot of cases, there's not much that I can do being so far away and over email or on the phone. I can't truly diagnose your car. I can only give you my best guess. I just want to thank you for all the support you've given to our YouTube channel in the form of comments, liking the videos, watching the videos. We've been getting lots of good comments on stuff, and we are reading your comments, we are responding to your comments, and we are taking your advice on what you want to see from us, and we do plan on doing a lot more videos like this, specifically for the Focus ST and the FC3 Civic Si. I do want to say that the best way you can support us is by checking out our website, edgeautosport.com, and purchasing your parts from us. We also offer e-tuning and dyno tuning for those of you that are local to us. Purchasing an e-tune for your EcoBoost powered Focus, Fiesta, or Mustang is one of the best ways you can support our channel and continue to help us provide more content for you. I am the one who will be tuning your car. There's not any other tuners here, so I'm the one that will be doing it, and I would love to work with you guys and get your cars tuned. So thanks again for watching. We'll catch you next time.